There is a particular kind of loneliness that cannot be cured by the presence of others. It is a solitude that deepens even in crowded rooms, that intensifies when surrounded by those who claim to love you. If you have felt this ache, this inexplicable sense that you are waiting for something or someone who has not yet arrived, then you already know what I am speaking of. You are what I have come to recognize as a rare soul. These individuals are not rare because they are superior, but because they are incapable of the compromises that ordinary connection demands. They cannot pretend to feel what they do not feel. They cannot manufacture enthusiasm for shallow exchanges. They cannot surrender their depths for the comfort of surface belonging. And so they wait, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades, often believing that something within them is fundamentally broken. But I tell you now, with the certainty that decades of studying the human psyche has granted me, your waiting is not a punishment. It is a preparation. The universe does not abandon rare souls to loneliness without purpose. It is shaping you, refining you, dismantling the false structures within your psyche, so that when authentic love finally arrives, you will be capable of receiving it without destroying it or yourself. What follows is the precise sequence of transformations that the universe orchestrates within rare souls before delivering them to their destined connection. If you recognize yourself in these stages, know that you are not lost, you are being found. Phase 1. The stripping away of false belonging. The universe begins its work on rare souls through a process I have termed psychic exile. Before you can find your authentic connection, you must first be removed from every inauthentic one. This removal is rarely gentle. It often feels like betrayal, like abandonment, like the systematic It is not the loneliness of absence, but the loneliness of presence, of being surrounded by people who cannot truly see you. This particular solitude serves a sacred function. It forces you to stop outsourcing your sense of self to others. It compels you to locate your own center, independent of external validation. Many resist this phase. They rush into new relationships to escape the discomfort. They lower their standards. They convince themselves that connection, any connection, is better than this unbearable aloneness. But this resistance only prolongs the suffering. The universe will continue stripping away false belonging until you accept that your temporary isolation is the doorway to your permanent home. Phase 2. The shattering of the romantic illusion. Once you have been sufficiently isolated from false belonging, the universe initiates a more surgical intervention. It begins to dismantle every fantasy you have constructed about love itself. This is perhaps the most painful of all the phases, for it requires the death of something you did not even know you were carrying. In my work with the unconscious, I have observed that most individuals do not seek a partner. They seek a projection screen. Onto this screen they cast the image of their own unlived potential, their unhealed wounds, their unfulfilled childhood needs. They call this projection love. They believe they have found their destined other, but what they have found is merely a mirror reflecting back their own incompleteness. The universe shatters this illusion for rare souls with particular thoroughness. It sends you relationships that feel fated precisely so you can discover they were only lessons. You meet someone who embodies everything you believe you need. Your heart recognizes them instantly. Every synchronicity seems to confirm that this is the one you have been waiting for, and then it ends. Not because they were wrong for you, but because you were wrong about what you were seeking. You were not in love with the person. You were in love with the qualities you had not yet developed within yourself. The decisive partner was teaching you to find your own decisiveness. The nurturing partner was showing you how to mother your own wounded places. The passionate partner was awakening the fire you had suppressed. I have termed this the education of projection. Each apparent heartbreak is actually a reclamation. Each loss of an external beloved is the recovery of an internal capacity. The universe sends these experiences not to torture you, but to retrieve the pieces of yourself you have been scattering onto others. By the time this phase completes, you will no longer seek a partner to complete you. You will seek a partner to accompany your completeness. This shift, subtle as it may seem, is the difference between relationships that consume and relationships that create. Phase 3, the confrontation with the inner saboteur. Here is where the universe's work becomes most mysterious and most cruel. Just when you have begun to understand your patterns, just when you can see your projections for what they are, something within you rises to sabotage your progress. This is the shadow demanding its due. The shadow, as I have written extensively, contains not only what we consider negative, but what we have been forbidden to claim. For rare souls, the shadow often holds the very capacity for love they seek. It holds the vulnerability they learned to armor. It holds the trust they were taught was dangerous. It holds the passionate surrender they were shown would lead to annihilation. The universe ensures that you meet this shadow before you meet your person. It arranges circumstances that trigger your deepest wounds. It presents opportunities for connection, and then watches as you unconsciously destroy them. It shows you, with ruthless clarity, exactly how you prevent yourself from receiving what you claim to desire. A man once consulted me who had ended 3 consecutive relationships with women he described as his soulmates. Each time as intimacy deepened, he would find irrefutable evidence of their unworthiness. Small flaws would magnify into categorical betrayals. Moments of human imperfection would transform into proof of fundamental incompatibility. He came to me believing he was cursed to fall in love with the wrong women. Through our work together, he discovered something far more disturbing. The saboteur was not external. It lived within him. His shadow held a terrified child who had learned that love always leads to abandonment. This child would rather destroy the relationship himself than wait for the inevitable moment when he would be destroyed by it. This is what I call the guardian wound, the part of your psyche that believes protecting you from love is the same as protecting you from death. The universe will not send you your person until you have made peace with this guardian, not defeated it but befriended it, not silenced it but listened to what it has been trying to protect. The question this phase asks is brutal in its simplicity. Can you be trusted with your own happiness? Can you receive love without finding reasons to reject it? Can you allow yourself to be seen without immediately constructing new hiding places? Phase 4. The alchemy of self-completion. There arrives a moment in the rare soul's journey when something fundamental shifts. The loneliness that once felt like exile begins to feel like sanctuary. The absence of a partner transforms from a wound into a womb. The self becomes, for the first time, sufficient company. This is the phase I have termed inner marriage, the sacred union of all the divided aspects of your own being. The masculine and feminine within you cease their war. The child and the elder find reconciliation. The wounded parts and the healed parts recognize each other as family. What occurs during this phase cannot be rushed and cannot be performed. It is not the adoption of a philosophy or the recitation of affirmations. It is an actual transformation of your energetic constitution. Your frequency changes. Your presence shifts. The way you occupy space in the world becomes fundamentally different. Others begin to notice, without being able to name what they perceive. They sense a quality of groundedness in you, a stillness that does not depend on external circumstance. They feel drawn to you not because you need them, but precisely because you do not. This is the paradox the universe has been engineering all along. During this phase, you may find that you stop actively seeking partnership, not from resignation, but from genuine satiation. You discover that the desperate hunger you interpreted as the need for another was actually the need for yourself. You had been searching for someone to bring you home, not realizing that you were the home you had been seeking. This is not a state of emotional deadness or romantic disinterest. It is rather the cultivation of what I call sovereign desire, wanting connection from overflow rather than from deficit. You no longer need someone to save you from yourself. You have already performed that rescue. What remains is the desire to share your abundance, not to fill your emptiness. The universe recognizes this shift instantly. It is in fact the signal the universe has been waiting for. For only when you no longer need another to complete you are you finally capable of joining with another without losing yourself in the process. Phase 5. The alignment and the arrival. When the inner marriage is complete, something remarkable begins to occur. The world starts rearranging itself around your new frequency. Circumstances that once seemed random reveal themselves as orchestrated. Events align with a precision that defies statistical probability. Synchronicities multiply. You think of a quality you value, and someone embodying that quality appears. You release an old pattern, and within days an opportunity emerges that would have been invisible to your former self. The universe is no longer testing you. It is preparing your arrival. And then often when you have finally stopped watching for it, then you have genuinely released attachment to the outcome. When you have surrendered the timeline to forces greater than your own will, the person arrives. They do not appear as you imagined. The fantasy partner, the projection screen you once constructed, bears little resemblance to this actual human standing before you. They are more complicated than your fantasy, more textured, more flawed, more real. And this reality, which would once have disappointed you, now registers as relief. You are not falling in love with an image, you are falling in love with a person. The recognition is not the dramatic thunderclap of romantic mythology. It is quieter than that. It is a profound sense of familiarity, as though you have met yourself in another form. It is the strange experience of being seen without the need to explain. It is the absence of performance, the laying down of armor, the startling permission to simply be. What makes this connection different from all that came before is not the other person. It is you. Because you have completed the journey the universe demanded, you bring a different quality of presence to this meeting. You do not grasp, you do not project, you do not unconsciously recreate the wounds of your past. You simply show up, whole, available, willing to be transformed by love without being destroyed by it. I have termed this state relational readiness, and it cannot be faked. Either you have done the work or you have not. Either you have walked through the fire of your own becoming, or you are still attempting to find someone to carry you past the flames. The universe knows the difference. Your person knows the difference. Most importantly, you know the difference. The truth that transforms. If you have found yourself in these words, if you recognize your own journey in these phases, then I offer you this final understanding. Your loneliness was never a curse. It was a curriculum. Every empty night, every failed connection, every moment of despair at your own apparent inability to find love, these were not punishments. They were initiations. The universe does not neglect rare souls. It educates them, it refines them, it dismantles their illusions with such thoroughness that when authentic connection finally arrives, they possess the capacity to receive it, to nurture it, to grow within it without losing themselves. You have not been forgotten. You are not broken. You are not incapable of love. You are instead being prepared for a love that ordinary preparation cannot support. The universe demands more of rare souls precisely because it intends to give them more. Wherever you find yourself on this journey, trust the process that is unfolding. If you are in the stripping away, let it strip. If you are confronting your illusions, let them shatter. If you are meeting your saboteur, extend your hand in greeting. If you are completing yourself, savor the wholeness. And if you are awaiting the arrival, know that your waiting is not passive. It is active participation in your own transformation. The person who is meant for you is also being prepared. They are walking their own difficult path, shedding their own false skins, confronting their own shadows. The universe is working on both of you simultaneously, sculpting you toward each other through separate crucibles that will one day converge. When you finally meet, you will both understand why it took so long. You will both recognize the necessity of every painful step. You will look at each other with the profound gratitude of two souls who almost missed each other, who almost settled for less, who almost gave up before the transformation was complete. But you did not give up, and neither did they. And so here you are, or here you will be, finally home in another person who has also found home in themselves. This is what the universe does to rare souls before sending them the right person. It makes them worthy of what they are about to receive, not through punishment but through preparation, not through cruelty but through the most profound form of care. Trust your journey. Your person is coming, and you are becoming exactly who you need to be to recognize them when they arrive.